About 6 videos ago, I explained why the Hook of Dissonance is often overshadowed by the Raw of Discord. I should probably just accept that it's worse at this point, but I still recommend checking that video out first if you haven't already, so you can see why I used it in the first place. If you've already seen that, then you're caught up. In this video, I try to expand on the best method you can use to utilize the Hook of Dissonance. It's one of my favorite items in the game, but what's the point of using it if I can't even use it effectively in the first place? So starting off, you can technically fight Queen Slime as soon as you get into hard mode. It might not be the most ideal for everyone to get the hook that early, but I'm going to go through most of the best stuff you can obtain from early hard mode to endgame to help you use this hook as effectively as you can. The most common problem that I have to address from the comments of the other video is that this hook gets rid of your momentum after grappling onto an object. That is a big downside compared to the standard hook, and I'm totally with you guys on that. So with that in mind, you would want to equip different things to negate that problem as much as possible. I think a quick burst of speed is the best bet here, since it's a good idea to regain your max speed as quickly as you can. That way, you're mitigating your chances of getting caught in attacks you were trying to escape. You're basically accelerating so fast that it's almost like you never stopped at all. There's two main ways you probably already know that you can use to get back up to top speed after stopping: accelerating and dashing. Though after testing it, there's one key problem with dashing. Using it after jumping out of using the Hook of Dissonance, there's a delay. But wait, wasn't the whole point of this to get out of an area as fast as possible after stopping? That's correct, which is why dashing can never be the best option. If you keep watching, you'll see one of the best methods there is to get back up to top speed. Moving back to dashing is still pretty good otherwise, so you can choose to use it in your armor or accessory slot. One more thing. I'm trying to avoid things that cheese the bosses, like tanking them with things like invincibility frames. Besides, that again would defeat the purpose of this hook. With all that in mind, I'm going to start going over specific items. Shadow Armor is pre-hard mode, so it's not extraordinary in most stats, but would you look at that acceleration bonus? 75%? That's pretty dang good, and has a pretty good movement speed increase to a 15%. Going along with Shadow Armor is the Magluminescence. Guess what? It does exactly the same thing as your Shadow Armor bonus, but it's an accessory instead. Assuming there's no diminishing returns or anything, that would be a total increase resulting in 2.5 times acceleration and 1.3 times movement speed. Now, it's probably not the best idea to keep Shadow Armor throughout hard mode, but the Magluminescence is definitely something to consider keeping instead. Another armor you can get from defeating Queen Slime, similarly to the Hook of Dissonance. The Crystal Assassin armor has a 20% movement speed increase along with the dash. Not to mention, the other stats are better than Shadow Armor too, given that it's hard mode armor. If you'd prefer not to use either of those armors though, you can use the Shield of Cthulhu instead as your first dashing accessory if you're in expert mode. Moving on to more accessories, Terra Spark boots are pretty much a no-brainer for movement speed, which you need for acceleration to be useful in the first place. You can also settle for lightning or spectre boots instead. Additionally, frog gear can be useful for jumping more and more quickly if you want to try that too. Another thing you might consider would be balloons, probably without the wings though. Speaking of wings, for now I just say to get the best ones you can. Duke Fish on wings if you're really good at the game though. Assuming you still have free accessory slots, just fill them up with things that increase damage or general buffs, basically just what you normally want to get for your class. I gotta mention that the Hook of Dissonance becomes less viable the more diagonally you use it, so that's where other mobility can come in. Lastly, at this time I recommend getting the Queen Slime mount, just as another option for good vertical movement if you need it. That's almost everything you can do pre-boss, but I also wanted to go over the arena setup since it can help a lot with using the Hook of Dissonance. The best results I've gotten are when each set of platforms is around 16 blocks apart. I actually originally settled for 8 blocks apart because it's faster if you're only using the hook for vertical movement, but that rarely happens in my experience, so not a great idea, and that's why 16 blocks apart is better. Basically, you want something that isn't too tall since you have a limited reach with your hook, but also not too short. Keep in mind though, that no matter how perfect your arena is, you still need to have some skill in using this hook for it to be useful than not. I've honestly used it at the wrong times before, and it resulted in taking damage I otherwise could have avoided, so I'd say to use it as much as possible until you can get the hang of it. Post-Mech boss, you'll have access to some better wings. The jetpack in particular is actually really good. If you hold up while flying, you'll accelerate upwards faster and faster. I think this is your best option for wings at this stage, and there's not a whole lot else you can get yet. Next, after you defeat Plantera, you can start getting more needed accessories. You can start making Shroomite bars, which means that you can make a hoverboard. Why mention a hoverboard? Well, it's a different type of wing that's just better in this case. Basically, you can hold down and up at the same time to hover, which allows you to move exceptionally fast in the horizontal direction pretty much instantly. You might know that there are other earlier wings that do the same thing, and even earlier, the magic carpet. But to tell you the truth, their hover doesn't even compare to this one. So this is basically the first actually good hover ability that you have access to. You can use it almost instantly after using your hook. Also, get comfortable because there's no other hover wings until you defeat Moonlord. Well, there's no other hover wings, but there's one more thing you can get now. If you defeat the Empress of Light on expert mode or harder, you can get the soaring insignia. It gives you infinite flight and also just increases all of your mobility. It doesn't say in the game, but if you look at the official wiki, you'll see that increases your acceleration by yet another 75%. So with all three things that increase your acceleration, you should be able to get 3.25 times your base acceleration. Not that you're going to use all three at once, but I just thought it was a lot on its own. Technically, you can make asphalt for even more acceleration and speed, but I don't think it's super useful for this build if I'm being honest, especially considering that it's a solid block rather than a platform. Post-Golem, there's nothing new. You could just upgrade your stuff as usual, nothing new post-Lunatic Cultist or the pillars either. Post-Moonlord, there's finally some more things that I can add. You can make the Nebula Mantle or Vortex Booster with their corresponding fragments. I mentioned those two only since they have a hover and are a straight upgrade to the hoverboard. After that, if you're in expert mode or higher, you can defeat Moonlord until you get the Celestial Starboard. This is no doubt the best set of quote-unquote wings in the game. Does it have a hover ability? Yes. It is also still better in every other aspect in contrast to other wings too. There's actually one more thing I want to go over. You can make logic sensors after defeating the twins. You might be wondering, why are you bringing wiring into this? Well, as you know, after grappling onto blocks, you normally have to jump off of it and are usually slowed down before dashing or anything. Well, by putting actuators on blocks and connecting them to logic sensors via wire, you can make it so that blocks turn off when you're close to them. This means that when you grapple onto these blocks, you will effectively keep going. Remember back when I said that you can't really keep momentum with this hook because you can't jump out of it fast enough? This solves that problem. You won't stop moving if the block you grappled onto isn't even there anymore. So you can basically replenish your flight time and keep going at the same speed, even when you're trying to turn a different direction. Now, sadly, this great design is kind of limited by the area of this logic sensor. There's no way to rotate it or anything. Since they are connected to the same wire, activating two logic sensors at once keeps the blocks on. This means that there's basically dead zones that you can't go. I tried something else and it fixed it. By simply giving each sensor a different wire color, you can separate the wires. Sensors have a kind of wacky range, but I can start to overlap them without issue now since they're connected to different wires. It works. This has got to be a game changer with this hook. You can basically replace all of your platforms like this. It is a bit of a setup element, but it is so worth it. I'm not going to use it much more in this video, but if you guys like it, then comment if you want to see me use it in another video with bosses and stuff. At this point, you've beaten vanilla Terraria. You could probably dodge the death ray from Moonlord with your insane movement pretty easily, probably on asphalt. So there's not much left to use the Hook of Dissonance for. Right? Wrong. Well, maybe. If you venture out into modded Terraria, you might find the Hook of Dissonance useful yet again. I've tried it with mods and it honestly feels a bit buffed. I'm betting the overhaul mod more specifically probably did something to hooks in general, but I don't know. I haven't tested it out with mods much. If you guys have experience using the Hook of Dissonance in modded Terraria, I'd be interested if you left a comment saying how you felt about it. If there's anything you think I missed or didn't do right, that's also something I want to know. Last thing, for more content, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and hit the bell. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one on HayHay-Gaming.